This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it is time for How to Super Age with Elise Marie Collins. And I'm really excited that we're going to start off with something a little bit different because you're going to talk to us a little bit about your book, aren't you, Elise?
Yes, I'm going to do a quick little blurb about my book, How to Super Age. Have you ever thought, what am I going to be when I get older? We always think, what am I going to be when I grow up? But what about getting older? Whatever that means for you, because older is kind of a moving target. I'm Elise Marie Collins. I'm the host of the podcast today, and I'm really excited to introduce my guest. But before that, I want to talk about my struggle with identity. Aging. I didn't fit the paradigm. And I looked around the world and I was like, well, there's some people doing interesting things, but not everybody. I wanted to bring everyone with me, really. So I wrote this book, Super Ager. You can look younger, have more energy, a better memory, and live a long and healthy life, because I'm also a yoga teacher. So I want to be healthy when I grow older. And Super Ager is filled with stories, dozens of tips and tricks on how to stay healthy and keep your mindset focused, because let's face it, the culture around us is not really that friendly to aging. It's kind of like, you're old. Oh, I'm old. So you can get inspired by the stories of older adults from 50 and up. You know, some of them are 118, actually. And at the end of the book, you'll feel inspired at any age to do what you like, and it will never be too late. So today we have a guest who's going to also tell us and teach us how to super age. I'm very excited because I know this guest very well. We've done workshops together. Her name is Jules Sears. Jules fell in love with sound healing immediately upon discovering it in 2009. She's certified in sound healing through CIIS. That's a local school. You'll have to tell us what it is because I can't remember, but it's integral.
California.
It's a very holistic school.
Yeah.
She incorporates traditional Chinese medicine and the vibrations of specifically designed and designated tuning forks on your acupuncture points. We'll be talking about that today. She enjoys doing workshops with me, and I can't wait to even hear. I think we're going to hear some sounds today. So Jules, welcome. I am so excited to hear from you. What drew you besides just loving sound healing? What about you and sound healing? What do you want to bring the planet? Like, what is unique about you and your sounds?
Well, first, thank you so much, Elise, and thank you, Karen. Nice to meet you. I really love being able to talk about sound vibrations and how I feel we all can use them to really help this world out and help each other, help ourselves. All the sentient beings respond to vibration. So, it can be negative and it can be positive. But what really first drew me in was I always loved music, and it just always calmed me down, or sometimes it would, pep me up or whatever. When I went through my punk rock phase, it was like right there with me. But I worked a lot in live music. And so I really, I did a lot of production work for concerts and venues, and I would feel the vibration. So I knew there was something different about live music and experiencing the vibrations one-on-one rather than listening to it at home, which is also great, or listening to it in your car, which can help the miles go much faster. And I've always, like I said, been really drawn to music, but there was something about vibrations that I really wanted to learn more about. And so I was at a music festival, and there was a woman who is now a good friend of mine. And she had these, well, first of all, she had these like amazing singing bowls that sounded amazing. And she was just playing things to kind of get us, to draw us in. And then she would tell us more about things. And she showed me the tuning forks. And I had already been working with acupuncture, and she's like, oh, I use these like sonic acupuncture. And I was like, wow, that's exactly what I want to do, because I knew the power of acupuncture, but I wasn't really ready to commit to going to the 3 to 5 year school that it requires. And you have to learn a lot of Chinese, which, I'm not great with foreign languages. Also, it's very heady and, there's a lot to memorize, a lot to learn. There's, over 300 points and you need to learn all the meridians and stuff. With sound healing, we learn all that stuff. There's a lot of basis in Chinese medicine and the way that the body works with the energy, the qi, but it's also a lot about, really calming down the nervous system, which I think is one of the best things that acupuncture does too. It just really can like calm down that fight or flight response that we often get. And so that helps the body to heal, because once you're out of that, like, and when you're in pain, you're almost always like this, so when you can like kind of relax into just the more natural state of body harmony, then you can really start to heal yourself, which I think is what is the key to all of it, and we all self-heal, and I'm just a conduit with my tuning forks to help that. And I also like to do a lot of work with the bowls. I really enjoy doing our workshops that Elise and I developed over the years. We often tend to base them on the seasonal changes that are going on, which both Ayurvedic and yogic studies have a lot to do with that, as well as traditional Chinese medicine really talks about seasons. So maybe we can get into that a little bit later. But first I want to just tell you the basics about,
let me just tell, I'll just tell everybody, just in case they don't know, because we have all kinds of listeners listening from all over, just to fill them in. I teach restorative yoga, which is basically, someone said, lying down on comfortable positions on pillows. It's a little more complicated than that. And then moving to another comfortable position. And we have combined, we've done a workshop and we've done it online too. So if anyone's interested, you can always email me, and I put my email in the show notes. We do a workshop, and we've done it in person, and we plan to do it in person in the Bay Area, where people are laying down. They also do a little bit of a warm up with sounds, because you can also make sounds, and I'd love to hear about that too. And Jules places the forks, just so everyone knows, she places the forks on specific points in your body, which is a really incredible thing. And if you're afraid of needles, then, and she's doing that right now, if you're afraid of needles, then the vibration and the sound works with you. So, and also I would love to know, how does the sound work? I know you were going to tell us something, but I'm curious. I know we hear it through our ears, but there's high sounds, low sounds. How does that, go into where does it go, and how does that work?
Well, it goes, so anything that is moving is going to cause vibration. And so all energy has a natural vibration. Some of it we don't hear, like you're saying, a lot of it we don't hear, but a lot of it we do. And so how they've been able to use tuning forks and any instrument, really, your own voice, is you're bringing that vibration by using a certain movement that's going to cause the sound to come out where we can actually hear it. And so, for example, I have these two forks. One of them is based on the new moon, which we are almost here the day that we're recording this. So, and then this one is what we call the Om fork. In the system I learned, which is called Acutonics, Om is often the grounding point. And what we're doing is these harmonics are that thing that's going to calm you down or help you move things out. So, for example, I'm going to hit this one, which is more or less G, the note of G if you're a musician, and this is more or less the note of C, which makes a fifth if you know music. But it's very soothing when people hear the fifth. And so the combination of them is going to go into your nervous system and start to automatically calm you down. And it'll work on pets, crying babies, lots of things that are anxious will resonate to that. And I think part of it has to do with just the natural order of our bodies. They want to go towards balance, and we get out of balance with, something that causes pain or emotional distress, or something that we ate that doesn't agree with us, or, we drank too many glasses of wine or whatever, we get out of balance. And then we're kind of flailing about trying to figure out how we can get back into that resonance or that balance. And so we want to, with acupuncture, it's the same way. And I know a lot of natural healing traditions, it's the same way. You're trying to get the body to go back to its more natural state where it will then be able to heal itself. And so listening to things that remind the body of how to get there, how that works is often like how you'll notice when you start listening to music, how you start like just moving to it, or, like they always use this analogy. I hope the young people will know what these are, but like if you have a whole bunch of grandfather clocks that used to have the big tick-tocks on them, the
Right.
bells that would count the time. If you have a bunch of them in the same room, they'll all start doing it to the same beat. They resonate together, and they all want to kind of be in time and in harmony with each other. So, of course, there's a lot of things you can do with the disharmonies too, and you can use that in a healing way with that intention to kind of break up stagnation or inflammation and stuff, where you want to kind of move it a little more. You're not trying to get it to calm down, you're trying to get it to kind of go out. And we often use my own fork next to the Mercury fork. So my different forks are based on the planets, which is brings a whole astrological side to the way I can pick the forks I want to use, as well as just to know what's going on in astrology at the time can be really beneficial when I'm doing an individual healing or a workshop or an online thing. So these two sound very similar. I don't know how well you're going to be able to hear them here, but they are very similar. They're like called microtones. And if I put it next to, like if I were to put it right here, which is a good one for, this is called the upper star, and it's a good one for balancing your left and right brain.
And just so you know,
go ahead.
I can't really hear them, but maybe I'm deaf.
Well,
But
you can hear them if you have them by your ears.
yeah.
This is not the greatest thing about online sound healing, is that some people have gotten really good at getting the correct microphones and stuff. I have not had that opportunity yet, but the vibrations are there, and they're very similar, but just enough different that they're causing that dissonance that I was saying. So that's
And if you look at Jules, people that are listening can't see, but it almost looks like she was putting the forks just above her hairline, like she had two antennas. And
exactly. So it's kind of in between your third eye and your crown chakra, if you know the chakras. And it's a very potent point. Like I said, in Chinese medicine, they believe it helps to stimulate the left and right brain. So if you're feeling like you're a little out of balance, that's also a good one just to even manually kind of, do a little acupressure on.
Great. So, yeah. And the forks that you had they almost look like tuning forks with either
dampers. That's what we call
skateboarders. What do they look like?
Well, they call these the dampers. They're like little, they go on the ends of the tuning forks. So like I have this one that doesn't have the damper, and you can hear these ones that aren't dampened much better because their sound is going out. I can still use them a little bit on points, but the dampers cause the vibration to go down into the stem. And so that's how I'm able to use them like acupuncture, where I'm actually really able to get to a specific point and do some, some work on reminding the body's energy channels where they want to go, So like this right here is a common, well-known headache point. And it's right in between where your thumb, and I didn't know we had people that didn't have video, but like where your thumb and your index finger meet, that webbing part.
Right.
And we have what we call the 4 gates in Chinese medicine are these points on each hand, and the same thing on your feet, in between your big toe and your second toe. And so I often really love to, what I call, open the gates in the beginning of a healing session, or I'll often do that towards the beginning of our workshops, because it helps the body to know where to send that inflammation and the toxins and stuff that it's releasing. It helps to like disperse, is what they say in Chinese medicine. It helps to get rid of that energy, and it has a channel and a path to go. So it's helpful for it to know that, that's what you're kind of sending that energetic stimulus and intention on doing. So
I love that. I know Karen probably has some questions, and
Well-
I don't want to forget about the seasons. Oh, let you go ahead, Karen. And then don't forget, we were going to talk about the seasons
Right.
too.
okay.
So as I'm watching you use the tuning forks, okay, and when you were using it on your head, okay, is tapping similar to a tuning fork?
I think it is. I've done emotional freedom technique, and that's what you mean by tapping, right?
Right, yep.
And, and I think there is one that's like here. I'm trying to remember. It's been a few years, but they're working on that same idea of like kind of waking up that energetic point where and a lot of them. I think there's one here. There's like ones that are good at kind of helping to put the body in that state of mind where it's going to release some things, and where it's going to then, you know, if you do it, I think you're supposed to do it 3 times, the rotation or something. 3 is used a lot, I know, in Chinese medicine, 3, 6, and 9. They like to do things in series like that. And so, yeah, it would be similar for sure. And, you know, you can use the tuning forks like that too. I think the thing about the tapping that's great, and it's the same when we use our voice in sound healing, is you're doing it yourself.
Right.
And so you're also having that intention really strong of what you're releasing when you're tapping. Or if you're doing acupuncture, like if you have a bad headache and you just like, you know, work on this point a little bit with your thumb, your opposite thumb, it can really help to release that tension that's causing the headache. And same with like, sometimes we'll just hold our heart if we're feeling, you know, kind of anxious or, you know, distressed, just because that helps us to feel that vibration of our energy there. And often we'll do that with our head too. We'll be like this if we kind of have, you know, a headache or something. That's because we're trying to make the energy come out and up. So there's a lot of things that you can do with energy medicine. I really love the woman Donna Eden, who a lot of people may know. She does energy medicine, and she has so many things on YouTube and things where she tells you how to use your body in using both acupuncture and other various ways of releasing stagnant and stuck energy. And it's interesting, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was saying that this person, who's a well-known sound healer named Jonathan Goldman, he was saying that he feels that sound is the slowest of the energy medicines because it can really get in there and you hear it and you can feel it. So a lot of energy medicine can happen really fast. And I do have forks that can, you know, like this one is a good one. I often use this at the end of our classes or at the end just to kind of seal the energy, but it's a much higher vibration. And I'm using, you can use any crystal or any kind of, you know, thing you want to hit it on. And it's going to help just kind of really go out into the more etheric fields faster. And then I have some that are really much lower and can be very grounding and can be very, you know, you can really feel their vibrations for a long time.
What about the seasons? I don't want us to forget.
Yeah. So, so we often have a lot of changes in our body, even if we are not living in a place that goes through the temperature changes. So, you know, Elise and I live in Northern California, and we have definitely hot times in the summer and colder times in the winter, but it's not that noticeable of a transition as it is in some places. And there are other places like LA where you barely notice. It's 75 and sunny every day, right? But you're still going through the seasonal changes in your body. And it's partly because we're very cyclic as beings. And so, in fact, the cycles are something that I really think is what's beautiful about the astrology part of of using the tuning forks in this way, because it really talks about how the new moon and the full moon can help, you know, like new moon is more about birth and starting new, and you're working to get all the information as the moon is getting, you know, much more brighter. And then when it's the brightest, when it's a full moon, then it's able to really manifest and start to like put its energy out there. And we all kind of work that way with almost anything we do, even if it's just eating your food, you're creating it and then you're eating it, right? And then you're, as it's waning, you're washing up your dishes, you know. So it's like we have these natural cycles. And so spring is considered the beginning season. And then when we're more like young and we're growing and we're emerging out of the planet or out of the ground, or, you know, it's a good time for those fresh new beginnings. And then as we get into summer and the heat, it's really growing and it's really starting to become fully formed. And then the harvest is the fall, where we're taking all that fruit stuff and putting it into use. Or if you have an idea, the fall is often a really good idea to time period to release it. And then in the winter, we have that incubation period where we just need to be a little bit more quieter and more in tune with our inner voices. We need that kind of yin side. So in yin, it's more the dark winter time. The yang is the summery, hot, fiery, more masculine side. The yin side is the more new moon, the more darker time. And you need both of those to really create any real, I don't want to say, I guess, manifestation, in order to make it happen, you know, because it can be applied to so many things. And we often in our culture forget about the yin part, right? You know, we'll like, even in the word Om, which we all know from yoga and stuff, the O part is the yang part and the M part is the yin part. And so many times we're like, oh, you know, so trying to do both of those, both sounds at the same amount of time is a really good one for balancing the yin and the yang, which Elise and I tell people all the time, right?
Yeah. I am wondering if you could tell our audience how the tuning forks and sound healing can help with aging and aging healthy, aging well, and maybe even how it could tie in with the seasons.
Yeah, well, one of the great sounding things you can do on your own is to tone or hum, you know, and even just humming is something that's going to release some, so they're on the more scientific side of things. They say that vibration releases nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is something that is really helpful for our serotonins and our dopamines and all our neurotransmitters. And when we hum, we do release oxytocin. And when we sing, we often do too. So doing that is going to really help you stay more, you know, in touch with your neurotransmitters, which we know is going to make us happy. And the oxytocin release especially is something that that is really helpful in aging, I think. And I mean, just in living life, but the more of that you can produce and release and be around, it's going to be helpful, you know. And I think it's, you know, there's a lot of neurotransmitters in our gut and stuff too. So helping us to, you know, reminding ourselves to eat well and to, you know, get enough sleep and all the things that your book talks about, staying flexible, you know, don't getting too sedentary, all that stuff is really helpful. But I think bringing in a sound element, whether it's listening to things, there's tons on YouTube that are about sound healing. There's a whole website called healingsounds.com that has just a plethora of stuff. And somebody was telling me I hope I get this right, but it's called the templeofsacredsounds.com. And it's the first online virtual like sound sanctuary, which I'm going to check out. To be honest, I haven't checked it out, but I know the person that did it, so I'm sure it's amazing. I just heard it this morning. But yeah, I think it's really great to just even doing some like going as low as you can and as high as you can really open up that whole inner line of ourself. That's kind of, we can think of it as chakras, or on the back, it's more the yang side. On the inside, it's more the yin side. So you could feel that sound, you know, from like your root chakra, and just like as low as you can go, and then bring it up over, you know, up your chakras, up over your head, stopping at your crown. Starting here is about where the yin part goes, and then bringing it down intentionally down into the front line of your body is a really nice one to do, even when you're, you know, just sitting in the car.
Yeah, and I think it does help. I know the science behind it too. In yoga, there's something I might be pronouncing it wrong, Brahmari. I think it's Brahmari, bee breath. And I used to do that with kids, where you just hum and you can plug your ears.
Yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
that.
And I used to just think, oh, the kids love it. You know, it's fun. We boom, boom, we buzz around.
Right.
And then I was pleased to know that there's so much research about the nitric oxide. So you guys can look it up. And maybe I'll put a link in the chat. Yeah. So,
yeah, that's
so
a
many
great one
things.
too. Just like, you know,
Yeah.
in like, maybe don't do that while you're driving, but you can do it definitely.
Don't plug your ears, keep your hands on the
Right.
steering wheel.
But yeah, just, you know, music is, to me, it's so essential. And I think myself, and I know when I'm not listening to music as much, I know something's kind of off with me, and I need to like tune myself up and get myself going. I also want to talk just a tiny bit about, again, we're going back to that, that fifth, or that yin and yang. These are my Mars. Mars is red and Venus is pink. These are my Mars and Venus forks. And when I say that, how the people who designed these Acutonics forks came up with their frequencies, was by taking the speed that they go around the sun and putting that in the fork. So it really is, you know, related to the way that these planets travel around the sun, and how we are affected by them is that whole astrological bent. But they make another really beautiful sound of balance. And I think it's a similar thing to the yin and yang, with Venus being more the yin and Mars being more the yang. Like trying to find that balance is good. Like, you know, when you look at the yin yang symbol, it's not perfect. It's not like very, it's wavy. And that's because it is a wave, and that, you know, you're never going to be perfectly balanced. That would probably be really boring, to be honest, but you want to have a little bit of, you know, you want to not get too into your yin. Like Venus, the goddess Venus, if on her more, what do they call it? Like her more negative sides, she can get very vain and very, you know, consumed with the idea of beauty, and not being, you know, very narcissistic in a way, where the yang side, the more Mars side, can get very aggressive, and you need to channel them and bring them into, you know, wavelengths together. And I love using these two forks together to do that to people, with people. And you can do it with these ones that don't have the dampers.
I love that sound. Can we hear it one more time? It cut off just a little bit. I still got it. It sounds great. And I'm laughing at Karen because when we were talking about the seasons,
Yeah,
she was nodding.
well, I'm just, you know,
And I also have the ones with the dampers, and these feel so good on your heart and so good on your third eye or your crown chakras. They feel good anywhere.
you know, as I hear all this, I know there are going to be some people maybe listening and going, you know, I don't understand the science to this or whatever. And I don't think you have to understand the science, okay? Because it's about feeling, and it's about transitioning. And yesterday I was having just like the most awkward day. Okay. It wasn't really that it was bad, but it just wasn't good. And I finally got myself to the point that my son said something to me and I just like bellowed it out. And I didn't even hear what I said, but I heard the sound. And as soon as I heard the sound, I just started to calm. It was like, don't know where it came from, but I needed to get the sound out. And it sort of sounds like that's what those tuning forks can do for you as well. Whether you may not be actually releasing it yourself, by screaming like I did, but it will help dissipate it and get you back to a balance, even if it's not a perfect balance.
Yeah, right. I think that's a great example. Sometimes you do just need to scream, or you do just need, to like shout at something. Hopefully you can then, if you're shouting at someone, hopefully you get the chance to talk it out better afterwards, or whatever. But we're human, and that's part of how we do it. It's why babies cry. That's why my cat wants in right now, like she's like, but you weren't having, and I know Elise had talked about this just for a second, but yesterday was a very tough day astrologically, and it was October 4th. All of us are going to remember it because it's when Facebook shut down, right? So
2021, y'all.
All that stuff. So that is when Mercury, which is the one that's closest to the sun, in between us and the sun, is in retrograde. It's right in the middle of it, and it's can often cause technological communication snafus and energetic electromagnetic problems with all kinds of electronics. And so, when we're having these, they happen 3 times a year and for 3 weeks. It's good to remember that, we don't feel quite right because we're just, the magnetic energy of the earth isn't quite harmonic, and it isn't quite like we are used to it being. But what it is it's a good time to review things and to revisit ideas and all these RE words, remember, recalibrate. So it's a time, again, it's like the winter season where we need to look back and see, how can I communicate better? What is going on with my son and I that I need to really look at, and how can I then take that as a lesson and make it into something that's a way I can find more balance.
I like that.
I think that's one of the things that I've learned about retrogrades, and we have a lot of planets in retrograde right now. So it's true for all of them, and they have their own energies. Like I said, Mercury's more known as the communicating one. Pluto on the other far end is one that's more about really dark, transformational, shadow control issues. And we are about done with Pluto in retrograde. Tomorrow, October 6th, it will be starting to not be in retrograde. But what's interesting about that too, and again, this is a whole nother podcast, but they say that the US is in its Pluto return right now. And so as humans, we never live that long. It's like 248 years or something. And it lasts a long time because Pluto takes forever to travel around. But that could explain why we're having all these transformative, dark energies coming up, because it's time for us to recalibrate and change the paradigms and change the energies. So I do feel like sound healing and all the energy arts that are going out, the fact that so many people are now into yoga and self-help and not just believing the power structures that are saying, well, you need to be on antidepressants your whole life, or, not that sometimes some people do, or, these pain pills and things like that, that people get really, they have just as many side effects a lot of times. And so not that they, I'm a pro Western medicine person. I think it needs to be in conjunction with your own self-awareness though, so that you really understand your body and your needs, and then you can find the best combination of what works for you.
I thought of a word too that is a re word. I love that you said all those recalibrate, connect or redo. And one is reminisce. And I think I've been thinking about that because I heard there's a therapy for people with Alzheimer's called reminisce therapy. And it's good for all of us, especially as we grow old, because we've had a lot of memories. But then I was almost thinking part of it too, it's nice to reminisce. And there's times for reminiscing, but we can also get kind of delusional. Like we think the past was better when, there's probably a lot of wrong things happening too in history. We've been,
you remember what you
especially in
want
the
to
US, we've been
remember.
going through our history. So I'm wondering if you have anything to say about how the sound forks can keep us, keep our memories. We keep that. It's always beautiful to have memories with our family, with our kids. You talked about your son, but also to keep us in the present. Is there anything how they keep us in the present, but keep us integrating?
That's interesting. I know that there are certain protocols that I've learned through studying with the tuning forks and the Acutonics Institute that are about like they call it like Akashic records. So that's even going into like your other beings and things like that. Like when you were, these memories you have of other times, but even your own memories, often that is in your feet and your knees and stuff. So a lot of work on that area, sometimes even you will not even have your feet really be where your feet should be. They're actually kind of out beyond your feet, according to some energy. I don't see that kind of energy sometimes, but they say that when you're doing that, you're not in the present. You're not living in the moment. You're living too much in the past, like you were saying. So I think there's definitely ways to try to bring that balance in, and working with the meridians and the energy around the feet and in grounding and stuff is really helpful. I also think that when, I'm sure that energy, I'm going to look that one up about the Alzheimer's, because I have an aunt who's really suffering from it, and she's my dad's twin brother. She's his twin sister, sorry. But my dad is really worried that he's going to have Alzheimer's too. And so I think it is really important to use those parts of your brain that the memory banks have. And recall is not that great in my family. And so like, I'm not a good rememberer of things, but when I have other people around me, I was just at a family reunion and we were telling a bunch of stories, and those will jog that memory bank, right? And so I bet that there are ways to record some of those stories or to use, so again, like I grew up in the middle of nowhere in Western Nebraska, and Hee Haw was this TV show back in the 70s.
Right.
And so my aunts and uncle made this little review where they were telling stories, and they used one of the segments of Hee Haw called Gloom, Despair, and Agony on Me. Anyway, it was like this little bit that they would always do. But just that song alone would bring back memories of us watching TV together and watching Hee Haw and talking about that show. And, so music can definitely do that. And I think there's a lot to be said about using different parts of your brain when you feel like you're having some memory challenge or some brain challenges, and, any kind of, one thing that I know is really helpful for people that have brain injuries is to do sound and acupuncture and things like that. It can really help stimulate a lot of that kind of bruised and damaged parts of their brain. And so I think a lot of that probably goes into the glandular side of things too, with your pituitary and pineal gland and all those really big ones that control a lot of our emotions and motor skills. And I've always felt a huge correlation between the chakras and the adrenal glands and the whole glandular side of things. We do the 6 healing sounds. That's kind of what they're about.
Yes, we do. So I'll put a link to that, the Taoist healing sounds. And those are sounds that anyone can make. And there'll be an explanation. I love all this information. I love that you even tie it back to clocks, that keeps it really down to earth, that clocks, because it's no woo-woo thing that happens. And I know in graduate school, we studied a little bit of sound healing at the university program I was in. And it was more like there's people that are, I don't know what it wasn't sound healing with forks, but more like this woman was a singer and she worked with people that had brain damage. And often you can sing before you can talk. And I don't know how that works.
Stuttering as well, like people
Yeah,
that
stuttering. Yeah. So
stutter
there's
can sing really well.
a lot to unpack, and just kind of presence that and think about, we don't have to know all the science behind it, but just to ponder how sound really affects us. And I know I don't want to leave until we find out where we can find you, Jules, and how you work.
Okay.
So I want to see if Karen has any final questions before we end our time with you. And
Well, Jules, tell us first, how can everybody find you?
So I am at primaljulesvpweb.com. Someday I'm going to get my
we'll
thing.
put it in the link. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We'll link it.
Yeah.
We'll
Anyway,
link it.
and it's Primal Peace Sound Healing. If you Google that, you'll find it as well. And I'll also include my email on there. And yeah, I'm in Santa Rosa, California, and I work at an acupuncture center, and I do private individual healings here. So if you're in this area and you want to schedule something, reach out to me. Elise and I are going to be revamping our sound and restorative yoga workshops soon in the Bay Area, and we probably will get it together. We had to take a little break. I had to take a little break from Zoom. And we're really trying to also get the whole sound thing a little bit better dialed in, because it really, a friend of mine plays the didgeridoo. I don't know if you know what those
Sure.
are, but
Yep.
they're these big, long wooden pipes almost that they play in Australia. And she was like, when you play it right, it's the most cosmic sound. If you play it wrong, it sounds like a cosmic fart.
Yeah.
So it's I feel that way about sound. Sometimes it can, unintentionally do something that's not very pleasing, and then, you're not really being that effective as a healer, are you?
Well, I do hope that you will come back on again, because I think this is the beginning of information that, many of us need. And again, just understanding that some of this we can do on our own.
Yeah.
And, if we need more, we want to reach out to someone like yourself. I've had acupuncture myself, and it's worked in certain cases, but I know part of that is that you have to let yourself feel. Okay. You can't just can't lay there and say, okay, put all these needles in me and I'm going to ignore everything that I'm feeling. And I'm sure
that's one of the problems with Western medicine, is it's made it think that you're a passive participant in your healing, and that they're going to do everything and you don't have to do much.
Right.
But, I think that's probably why we're not a very healthy society right now, because we've let that part of it be too, we've gotten in disbalance or unbalance with it. It's, we need to bring back that more responsibility of our own well-being. It starts with you. You got to have the desire to make things better and get to, find those tools. They'll come to you if you put the intention out,
Absolutely. Well, Elise, you did it again. You brought us a phenomenal guest.
I'd like to do one last sound. I only brought one crystal bowl, but
okay,
these ones usually sound pretty good on Zoom. So we'll end with this, and May these sounds and vibrations go exactly where they're meant to go for your highest good and your greatest joy.
Thank you, Jules.
Thank you, everybody. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
Thanks for letting me have the opportunity to talk about sounds.
Certainly appreciate it. Have a great day, everybody. Stay well.
Bye-bye.
Bye.